Now what we're going to do is we're going to create curls now in Alex's hair. So we've got lots of different types of techniques for creating curls in the hair. I'm going to take you through 3 of the different types, alright? What we're going to do first of all is we're going to do something called what we call a wet set. Now this is a traditional kind of setting technique that's mainly used on little old ladies, which is like the old roller set. So this is where you have the hair wet and then you'll apply product to the hair like a blow dry lotion, a setting lotion, or even a mousse or something like that. And that'll basically apply some kind of resin to the hair. Now it's a very, very strong technique, this, in the sense that what roller you use is what curl you will get, all right? And you'll see what I mean when we've finished. So I've got a section of hair here. We're just going to wet it down slightly with some water. And remember what I said earlier about that? I mean, when the hair goes from wet to dry, that is when it's completely styled. So what we need to do is for all this hair to dry. So it's a technique that can take quite some time if you're doing a complete wet set. And I'm just going to do one section of it here, and this will just allow you to see what happens. So we've already got some product on the hair, and all I'm going to do is start at one end of the curler here, and the important bit are these little ends here, these little tufty bits. We want to make sure we get them wrapped right round there, and then wrap the hair on top. And then what I'm going to do is then just kind of spiral the hair up the curler like so. This will mean that it's dead easy for this hair to dry. What lots of people tend to do when they do this is wrap the hair on top, on top, on top, on top. The top section will dry nice and easily, but all the stuff underneath just stays damp for hours and hours and hours. We don't want any of that. Now, the size of curl you'll get depends on the size of roller that you're using. And we're using quite a small roller here, so I'll expect to get a reasonably tightish kind of curl out of it. And we'll get very much kind of a ribbon type effect from that. And that, like I said, is a wet set. What we're going to do next is a dry set, and this is where we just put a curler into dry hair. It's already been blow dried, or and it's completely dry. We're just going to apply a small amount of hairspray to it. It's a very quick, easy technique, this one. We take our curler in exactly the same way as the wet set and kind of wrap it round. Now obviously you've not got wet hair, so it helps to dry very, very quickly, this one. And not only that, is it won't dry to the same size as the curler, it'll dry much bigger and much, much softer. So although you've got something there that looks like the same technique, you will get 2 very, very different results from it. Remember, wet sets will always give you a much, much curlier, crisper result. A dry set will be much, much softer. Now the final technique, which is what we're going to do now on the rest of Alex's hair, which is the most common technique, and without doubt, for me, gives the best results. And this is the spiral tong. Okay? Spiral tong. Now you get different sized tongs. This is about a 19mm tong. It's already heated up, so I'm not going to touch it. And obviously we just wrap the hair around this tong. There's lots of different ways of doing it. I am going to show you the easiest way, alright? I'm going to spin Alex round here. Now, the hair's already dry. You cannot tong wet hair, alright? It's impossible. So if you're going to do your hair yourself, make sure your hair is fully blow dried, or just completely dry, and make sure you put some product on the hair. And remember, with Alex's hair, we put plenty of mousse on, so it's well protected there. And what we're going to do is we do each section, we're just going to put a small amount of hairspray on. So we'll pick up a section of hair like so. Wants to be roughly about kind of an inch cubed, if you like, or squared, should I say. We want to take that section, small amount of hairspray onto it, take the tong, and then we want to start to wrap the hair around the tong, starting at the roots. So we're starting here, and then we wrap this hair around, around, and around, and then you can use this clamp to shut down here. Now this is, without doubt, the easiest and best way to do this. I'll show you some of the pitfalls in just a minute. And the hair gets wrapped from one end of the tong to the other. It doesn't get wrapped on top of itself. Again, you need the heat to get to the hair to make it curl. And you'll see there, one lovely, nice, crisp, coily curl. And you've got a little bit of hairspray on there which you'll be able to feel, but again, as you start to pull that out, it'll start to soften slightly. Very nice. Now, the big problems with this is what lots of people tend to do is start at this end here, clamp the hair into the tong, and then gradually start to wind up. You'll see that this doesn't work, because one, it slips out of the tong really, really easily, and what you end up with is a very curly bit at the beginning and a very, very slack bit at the end, and all in all it makes very, very difficult hairdressing. Remember, you start at the roots of the hair and start at the very end of the tong, and then wrap up towards the beginning. and then use your little clamp just to clamp down onto the hair. Hold it in place no longer than about 5 seconds and then gradually pull it out. The longer you leave the tongue in the hair, the curlier it'll go. The less you leave it in, the looser it'll go, and the more product or hairspray you put on the hair, again, the more curly it'll go. So it can change with different, you know, every single curl can be a slightly different one, but that all makes for hair that looks more naturally curly. Now, one other little trick for this is what we've done here is we've done hair anti-clockwise. We wrap this around the tongue anti-clockwise. What we're going to do this time is wrap it clockwise. So we put it in the hair and then wrap it around this way. And that way, you don't all end up with hair that's all going in the same direction. What you will find is if you do it in the same direction and you look in the mirror, all the hair looks really weird. Everything's going the same way. Looks like you've been caught in some kind of weird wind tunnel. So we're doing some clockwise and some anti-clockwise, and therefore you get some that will run this way and some that will run that way, all leaving for a much more natural, cooler kind of look. You'll see much, much better once we've done the whole thing. Now we're almost coming to the end here. We're just tonguing any little kind of stray bit we can find, such as that little piece there. There's one that got away. And remember, we're just kind of wrapping it around like so. Okay, and then again, a little bit like we did with the first hairstyles, we want to kind of mess it up a bit at the moment. Probably all looks a little bit proper. But ideally, this kind of mistiness that you see around it is all good stuff. I mean, it's not supposed to look like she's in a TV commercial or anything, but we just want to make sure it doesn't look too frizzy looking, and we'll do that with some kind of finishing products. And at the end, you'll notice we've kept the fringe quite straight through here, which I think is quite nice, but still kind of put in some height through here, which will also kind of set it off quite well. Height at the crown, that's what you need. I'm just going to wrap a couple of bits at the root here just to make sure that we do get some height up here. And then I want to show you around the back some of those curls that we did earlier. Remember we did a dry set and a wet set at the back, and I just want to show you some of the differences of that kind of a curl. Okie dokie. How does it feel? Different?
Very different.
Very different.
It's completely different from the other one.
Yeah, and it's very, very easy really. I mean that, and you can see these kind of lovely big curls. In about half an hour or so, all this will start to settle and just become much, much looser. Very, very nice. So, around the back here, spin this round. We'll have a look at these two little surprises under here. Okay. So this is our dry set. Now you'll notice you get a very kind of soft kind of a curl from it. It's not quite as kind of defined as some of these curls here, because of the way it wraps around the curler. But you get a very soft loop and then a kind of a much curlier kick at the end. And then our wet set here, which are probably likely to come out more kind of ribbon-like than the others. As you can see there, very, very, very curly. See what I mean by it matches, it actually matches the curler. And if I just try and unravel this in the right way, you'll see what I mean when you get this kind of a rag-rolled ribbon type effect of the hair, where it's almost like a complete coil. So that's the dry set, which is much, much softer. That's a wet set where you get a much more kind of ribbon type, tighter curl, it actually mirror image of that. And then with these heated tongue bits, you get much, much kind of softer, more kind of current curl. You're more likely to see this knocking about on various catwalks and in various magazines. And this tends to be a really, really popular technique. Easy.